Welcome at Egomio for another day. And let's say hello to our Citern Live audience.
Of course.
All over the world. We wish them good luck. We go through a very difficult period of time. How did the pandemic affected you as a dance artist?
I think it's been difficult for everyone. As a dancer, I think it's been particularly hard because we're very used to physical contact. We're used to, challenging the space around us and around others as well. And it's been hard through the creative process, particularly because we use a lot of contact to create new work. And we've been unable to do that for a long time now. And I think initially I thought that this was going to last for only a few months. So I didn't make any plans to adjust to it. But going back in the studio and realizing, suddenly you have to wear masks, you have to be, wary of distances between the other dancers, and not being into contact has been a bit unnatural, I think, for many dancers. And, I think a lot of us don't actually realize how much we've been affected by it. Not only emotionally, but physically as well. Our bodies have changed. We haven't been able to train as much. And to even find motivation for training as well has been hard. Mm-hmm. There's been shows cancelled and festivals and teaching, of course, so we have had to find other ways, like online teaching or online rehearsals, which is not something I particularly enjoyed, to be honest. It's a contact art, really, dance. You don't have the correct use of the floor, and you risk injuries more. You can't use the space. Suddenly you need to move in confinement and isolation. So emotionally it's been difficult. Financially also it's been it's taken a huge toll, I think, in the dance industry. I mean, it's a place where you rely a lot on audiences, live audiences, or funding, which is we've had really little to no support from the government, and it's been a very difficult time. But I think it's uncovered a problem with the system, that there's very little funding for artists and institutions that are run by artists. There are not many opportunities here in Cyprus, and I think you see a lot of young artists and choreographers here that tend to move abroad, and it's sad to see, because you'd want to see dance move forward in Cyprus. But I think a good thing that has come out of it is, there's been a sense of community between the dance artists. We've all had to face the same issues and anxieties through this time, not only financially, but emotionally as well. And I think it brought us together more, and we've felt the need to help each other through difficult times. So yeah, it's been a time, I think, for whether we wanted to or not, it's been a time for self-reflection, I think, and growth. And I felt the need to create more, I think. Maybe it's because it was a weird experience, and this was my way of getting it out there. Mm-hmm. And there's a push to reinvent the way we project our art now, and maybe create connections, not just physically, but more deep connections, more authentic works. And yeah, I'm hoping that this this community that came together through this time is going to last even in the good times, and maybe we can make a change and help dance move forward in Cyprus.
So keeping alive,
yeah,
the whole art world,
yeah,
supporting each other, solidarity, and get together.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Working in the theater as an actor and a director, how these violent lockdowns affected your work as an artist?
So the first lockdown, we were working in the same place, so you remember it, how shocking it was, the news of that we had to stop our rehearsals, that everything had to stop and that we had to go home. It was a bit of a shock, but it was a much needed pause. It was a step back that we all needed to fully understand what was happening, because we had no information, not enough information yet, and we also had to take into consideration all the health and safety issues that had occurred. What was comforting, though, apart from the fear and the anxiety that we had, and all the thoughts of what is going to happen next, what the future holds, what was comforting was this sense of togetherness, that we as a global society were facing the same thing, and we could come together and we could appeal to the best aspects of human nature and overcome the problem. What was frustrating, though, is what came after, because you could see the days after there were lockdowns after lockdowns, especially here in Cyprus and in Greece as well. We've experienced that. We've heard the promises that weren't kept from governments, the unequal measures, and you could see how the systemic injustice and unfairness came into light. This was really frustrating, and this made me, and I think all of us, angry and a bit helpless that we couldn't do anything about that. We could see that there were these democratic illusions that were falling apart right now. And I think we're still in that state of dealing with the aftershock, with the aftermath of what the pandemic has left within the society. Now, as far as art and we as artists are concerned, I don't think it has ever been easy for art, and art and power always had a difficult marriage. What was clear for me, and I think for many of us, was that apart that in the practical part of the things, that there was an alarming call that we need to find new ways of expressing, of communicating, of doing our art. But apart from that, there was also this need that became clear, that we have to listen to what society needs, what the time needs. We have to understand the fears, the dreams, the anxieties, the trauma that we've all experienced, and make something out of it, express it, turn this trauma into art, speak about it, understand it and embrace it. I think that's the only way of moving forward. And also that we have to come in class with power and authority. We have to point out what the system does wrong, what the state does wrong. We have an obligation, I think, as artists. We have to retrace ourselves and find ourselves within this society and within this world, to go back to the reason why we became artists.
Yes. Thank you, Giannis.
Thank you, Elena.
It's been such a long time to get together at Egomio after so many lockdowns and
Yes.
such a long time of pause. So how did you find yourself during the pandemic?
Yeah, it was quite a shock for everybody, because as artists we need this interaction with other people. So it was quite a shock, but it was a time to reflect, I think. As a composer, it's you don't have to perform your composition. You can actually stay home and compose. You don't have to actually perform your composition. But it's quite a shock that you don't have this interaction with the audience. So that's the one thing that it was really something that I was missing, this interaction, live interaction with the audience. But as a composer, we are still composing. There is no pause because of the pandemic. We sit on our computer and we compose, and we have that material on the computer for future performances. But during the pandemic, you have to reflect yourself of how do you see yourself in the future, and what compositions you want to project. And I find myself that I wanted to have a change in my compositions, and especially what I wanted to project, something new, let's say. You do all your research, and specifically my compositions are based on spectral essence of the sound, and then you stop and think, wait a minute, this pandemic is actually something that it might be interesting as a subject for new ideas, let's say. I started gathering ideas, and I found myself working towards more compositions that they had a political essence, because as we know, there are some politicians that they are getting the ideas that we have to stop, let's say, a certain budget, let's say, because of the pandemic. And those budgets that are being cut first are the budgets for arts in general. So I found myself composing more post political compositions, which you have to, you are getting stigmatized, by not being allowed to, perform your compositions. You are actually composing, but still the actual performance of it, that's the essence of the composition, that interaction with the audience. So I sat down, and during the pandemic, and my last 3 compositions are based on political, post-political structures, and specifically how politicians are influencing other people, and specifically in the arts, by their decisions. So I think that's crucial to include this during composition, I think.
So it was all this silence from the whole world,
yes,
that affected the whole world, but at the same time there was a lot of action and reaction of what was happening, especially in the fragile sector of arts.
Yes.
So how do you find yourself after this pandemic? Let's say it ended, or it's towards the end.
Yes.
So do you see something new that's coming to change the whole scenario of the art world? Do you feel it's gonna be something better, worse?
Yeah.
Where do we go after that?
Yeah, it definitely changed our perspective, towards art and towards, relationship with people. All of these, stay in your box and do Zoom calls. That's unhealthy. But at the same time, I had some collaborations that they wouldn't otherwise realized. This sense of you want this, back and forth connection with people. Mm-hmm. So I had some people that you wouldn't otherwise call me, to give them some compositions to perform. Because they wanted this interaction, because they were sitting in their house, and so their thing was they needed this interaction with the composer. So they called me to give them compositions that they wouldn't otherwise call, because they had other opportunities or other concerts to do. So during this pandemic, I've seen this interaction, more and more interaction with even unknown composers that they the performers, new connections and new opportunities. I think, which is fascinating. And slowly I see that the pandemic is going to fade out, and phase out. But I think this connection is going to stay here, I think, forever. It's going to be something that is going to be prolonged, I think, and we need it as a human, let's say, interrelationship. Yeah.
So in this closed world, let's say, after the pandemic and during the pandemic, we opened up as humans.
Yeah.
And we felt more the
connection,
the strength of togetherness.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing I see. I mean, pandemic is something that's not going to last forever, but it's a fact that it changes towards this the humanity. We rediscover our humanity, I think, and that's the plus that we need to keep. Let's say.
Thank you, Haris. Rediscovering, reconnecting, reconsidering, and staying together, supporting each other.
Yes.
This is great.
Yeah, this is the point.
This is art.
Yeah, this is art. This is art.
Egomio Cultural Centre was created in 2013 when here in Cyprus we had another economic crisis with the bank system. People were in despair, asking for compensation for their lost money, and the situation around us was miserable and ensuring that culture would be losing more from the little attention it already had. Egomio is a place, a space of endless exchange of ideas, moments of collaborations, thinking out of the box, and reimagining unity, confronting personal views, and create special fragments of social and cultural events. This last year, due to pandemic, Egomio was empty, but we always kept a light turned on for the next moment to start getting in a new way of keeping our identity as artists. During lockdown, we still had to find ways to express ourselves, create space for the new to come, and I believe this is what art is doing. Creating space in people's mind for new thoughts, changing the pattern, and thinking out of the box, empowering the society through art, building bridges in our microcosmos with people who needed to talk about the changes around us, creating social dynamics and breaking the complexities. Here at Egomio, we are always building dance bridges and international cooperation, supporting and respecting independent artists, building solidarity and tuning a multicultural life around us. Joining forces is a way to find more energy and endurance for this new, after the pandemic scenario, to keep art life vivid and artist identity strong. We saw ourselves as artists becoming vulnerable, but taking care of the vulnerability next to us was like protecting ourselves. We had to face new process in creation and administration in a fully disorganized environment. Finding ourselves in such a difficult situation, we had to stand still and breathe in and out, looking for a slow transformation of the surrounding until this new setup will allow us to keep moving, keep dancing, keep creating, and keeping art in a special place in the society.